Hello and welcome to Setting the Edge, Week 11 Fantasy DFS Breakdown here on Fanduel and Draftkings. My name is Ronnie Vaughn, and I'm your host as always, and I'm joined with my compadres, co-partners, whatever the fuck you want to call you guys. We'll start with Eric Rasmussen, at Razzle11Grinds on Twitter. And we got my man, the great Zambino, Ryan Zamichelli out there. How we doing, boys?
Great.
Never better.
There we go. Got another great week of fantasy football coming up for us, and we're going to let it rip right now. We're going to start with the quarterback position. Ryan, let me. Who are your top three guys you're kind of looking at here in specific games at quarterback right
now? So I think all the chalk's going to be this week is pretty much on is mainly, and then two guys will probably be right below them. I got Marcus Mariota against Tennessee as a chalk play. Big Ben against Cleveland as a chalk play, and then Andrew Luck as well. What I'm thinking here is Marcus Mariota has just been playing out of his mind the past couple weeks. He has multiple touchdowns, and it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games. People are going to start to catch on to that eventually. It seems like his ownership hasn't really grown with his production, but I think this week would definitely be a week for that to really jump up because of past 2 weeks and then a favorable matchup here. Then with Big Ben, I think that people are just going to see the Cleveland matchup and plug him into their lineup regardless of whether it's on the road or at home here. The fact that it's on the road should bring his ownership down a little bit and probably his production along with that. And then Andrew Luck, I'm thinking in the same boat as Mariota, where he's been a solid player. His production the last 2 weeks was down a little bit. Or his last 2 games was down a little bit. Looks like they're coming off a bye this week. So that definitely bodes well for his production. And I think that just inherently against Tennessee, you saw what Aaron Rodgers did to them last week, that their secondary isn't a high-quality secondary for the NFL. And the two below them are the Sunday night matchup, Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, because everybody's going to look at what Mariota did against Green Bay and just think plug and play against Green Bay. And then Aaron Rodgers has to throw for 1,000,000 yards in order for Green Bay to compete in any game this season.
Yeah, I'm with you with that all the way through right now. A guy you didn't necessarily mention that you even talked about telling me a little bit before, but the garbage time king Blake Bortles, sitting at 7.2 on FanDuel. What's he over on DraftKings? He's 5.4 on DraftKings. He frees up some stuff if you go down to him. And the game is a decent over-under here. Let me look at – it's at 47.5. And the spread is in favor of a nice little Bortles fourth quarter comeback. It's 6.5 in favor of the Lions. And, Darius Slay's back and everything, but I'm not that scared necessarily of this, Detroit defense. But I think I'm probably going to be looking either towards Mariota, Luck, potentially paying up for Brady, or Bortles right now. Because if I'm going to go down to Kirk Cousins, I might as well just go down to Blake Bortles, I think, just to save a little bit to make something happen. Because I want to pay up at wide receiver for sure this week. Raz, what are your thoughts on the quarterback position this week?
Pretty much right on at the chalk. I think Stafford will be somewhat popular as well. With one of the higher team totals on the week. What are they, the fourth highest team total from what I'm seeing? So, and then obviously Luck and Mariota for sure. And I like Cousins, just because it's against the Packers and teams have been able to throw all over them. So I will definitely have a decent amount of Cousins. Little disappointed the only way to get access to the quarterbacks I really like this week are to play Thursday through Monday. The game tonight is going to be pretty high scoring, and then obviously Derek Carr on Monday, which is a little frustrating.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I love playing Derek Carr. I'm with you on that. And if I did, I'm going to put together a Thursday to Monday lineup pretty soon. And I do like Cam too, honestly, for the Thursday game. But overall, I don't think I'll end up paying for Brady, honestly. I think running back. I'd rather get exposure to the Pats elsewhere. And then like it's between like Mariota and Luck. I'll take Mariota just because his line is just significantly better, and I think he might be a little safer even though it's Luck at home. Any other final thoughts on the quarterback play? Give me a punt play at quarterback that you'd consider doing maybe in a GPP or maybe into a cash game. If a couple years ago that would have a really solid year of literally a punt quarterback every week. Is there any punt quarterbacks out there that you'd consider?
Colin
Kaepernick.
For me, one more guy who I'm looking at who's not necessarily a punt play. I'm looking at Russell Wilson at home against Philadelphia because everybody who's watched the Eagles for more than a game knows that at home than they are on the road. On the road, they took care of business in Chicago. Then they lost to Detroit, lost to Washington, lost to Dallas and New York, and now they have to go on the road to Seattle, who just cut their running back. So I think Seattle's in like a good position overall, and I think Russell Wilson is in a good position because the Eagles secondary isn't really that good. They just play well at home. Like the defense in general just plays well at home. So I think Russell Wilson's also worth consideration maybe in a tournament. I think he
won't be highly owned, that's for sure. Any thoughts on like Cody Kessler at all? I don't know. I was like looking way down to see if there was anything I could like grab.
Yeah, if you're looking at Cody Kessler, then you're pretty much banking on the Pittsburgh Steelers are just atrocious on the road thing. And I don't really know how I see that game playing out for Cleveland. Pittsburgh isn't very good against the run. So I think that they could attack them probably more effectively on the ground.
Yeah. What about Goff? Anyone going to put Goff in a GPP?
I mean, I would choose him over Kessler just because their team total is just slightly higher than.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking of going.
And he's cheaper, at least on Fanduel.
If you're gonna go like Cody Kessler, then you just go Jared Goff because pretty much the same idea. I don't know. Miami's like pretty good against the run. I mean, I guess maybe Goff lets it rip. Who knows? I don't know. I'll definitely have a GPP lineup with him because I like doing a little punt QB thing. It's very interesting. It really gives you the sweats sometimes. Let's move over to the running back position. This week's highlighted, in my opinion, Le'Veon Bell or 9.1K on FanDuel. You can obviously, and then Zeke. You can never go wrong with Zeke. And then Murray's a top guy as well, DJ. But I think this week you can pay down at running back a little bit. CJ Procise really brings some value to your lineup. LeGarrette Blount is, price is coming up across the industry, but he's guaranteed to get like in the end zone pretty much every game. He gets all the goal line carries. We can talk about Fat Rob Kelly too and the Redskins in the game against the Packers. Packers been getting torched on the ground. So where are your top guys here, Raz? Where are you looking to go at running back? What's your strategy here?
I mean, much like you, I prefer to pay up at wide receiver this week. So, I'll be looking at Procise a decent amount. Rob Kelly. I will obviously have some Blunt in places, but I mean, it's tough. There really isn't a lot to pay down to help me out. On DraftKings, I definitely like Riddick. That I can't decide where his ownership's going to be, but I think he's like 5.1 over there.
Yeah, he's 5.1.
So I kind of like the idea of going down to him. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough. Because obviously Le'Veon Bell or David Johnson are always studs or Zeke or whatever, but kind of got to get creative. And I guess on DK, my one guy that people probably are afraid to use at this point, I will be using Gurley at just 5K. Coming into the season, if you would have told me he ever got below 6K, I probably would have told you I'd use him every time. And now he's at 5K, and he's got a rookie quarterback. I could see him getting the ball a few extra times this week, just take the pressure off Goff.
I can see that. I like that. I'm making a DraftKings Thursday to Monday right now, and he's sitting in my lineup right now. But I like that. Interesting. He's definitely for a GPP. I don't think I'm safe playing with Gurley, but his floor definitely rises a little bit with Goff coming in there. You'd have to imagine. Um, they're at home, and that always seems to help with running backs. Ryan, what are your thoughts about the running back position this week?
It's obviously Le'Veon Bell against the Cleveland Browns, and then LeGarrette Blount should get a lot of cash ownership. Probably not much GPP ownership because like his floor is a touchdown basically because in 8 of 9 games this season he scored, but then his ceiling is dependent on him scoring 3 touchdowns, him scoring 2 touchdowns because odds are he's not going to like bust out that 75-yard run that could really put you over the top in a GPP. Definitely a very, very, very good and strong, safe cash play. He'll have a lot of ownership, though. And then a guy who I think that could see his ownership a little bit higher than I would be comfortable with is Spencer Ware. I think like the home in Arrowhead against Tampa Bay, that's a good matchup looking at that. But then Kansas City at home, just their pure ground stats. There have been games where Spencer Ware has caught a 45-yard pass that like really put him over the top. Him in a cash lineup, I'm not safe relying on a 45-yard reception with the running back. And if you look at their games, he played in 3 of these games. Chuck Hendrick West played in the last game, 39 yards and 0 touchdowns. Against New Orleans, Spencer Ware had 17 carries, 77 yards and 0 touchdowns. In the first game against San Diego, he had 11 for 70 and a score. And then in their game against New York, the Jets, he had 20 for 75 and 0 scores. His ground stats and like nicks the 45-yard reception, then he's only really startable in one of those weeks. And so that's why I'm kind of like scared off of him. I'll be okay if the chalk is with him or if like he gets 17 to 25% ownership in a 50-50 and I stay away from him. I'm fine with if he burns me on a 45-yard reception, then I'll just take that.
I hear you on that. Any thoughts on LaShawn McCoy this week? I kind of looked at him a few times. He's around the same value as like LeGarrette Blount on Fanduel. And then you look on, I think he's sort of close on DraftKings, so I have to pull that up. But I like LaShawn McCoy. Like people are kind of got scared off him because of the injury, obviously. But then, he got the ball like 21 times last game. And you look what he did when he was healthy. He was getting the ball pretty much 15 to 19 times each game and putting up between 15 and like 32 points. Against the Jets, he had 11. But, is there any consideration for him in like cash or is he strictly GTP, you think?
I think there's definitely consideration for him in cash because he's basically proven that he's matchup proof. He played against the number 1 ranked run defense and put up 15. Played against the number 2 run defense, put up 25. Played against the 7th ranked run defense, put up 16.8, and then played against the 9th ranked run defense and put up 14. This isn't a bad matchup for him. And he's proven that even if it was, he's matchup proof when he's I definitely think there's a lot of merit. Like the Cincinnati Bengals sit about average for their run defense against running backs this season when you're strictly looking at fantasy points allowed to running backs.
They're also 20th in DVOA and 26th in yards allowed per carry. So that bodes well. And Bill's offense is still first overall in DVOA, first per carry. So I like him there, but would you rather go like him or Blount?
I think if you want to be a little bit contrarian in cash, like if that's your thing, definitely the way to go. Because like say the game in New England or game in San Francisco plays out that James White just so happens to score every touchdown for the running backs in that game because it's a pretty safe bet saying a running back is going to score a touchdown for New England this week.
Right.
I'll bust for 40 yards and no touchdown. And you pivoted off of him to LaShawn McCoy, then you just won yourself money.
Yep. Raz, what are your thoughts on that LaShawn McCoy pick?
I like McCoy as a GPP option. The only reason I'd be off him in cash is obviously I don't think he's completely healthy. Plus, Gillislee has scored a touchdown in 4 out of the last 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So McCoy's yielding some red zone carries and inside the 5 carries to Gillislee. And I don't like that idea when it comes to cash. So I'd rather use Blount because he's getting all the carries inside the 5-yard line. But, I definitely like McCoy for GPP purposes because his ownership's going to be pretty low, I think, in comparison to everybody around him.
Yeah, I hear that, and that's kind of why it's not a terrible pivot. Let me pull up DraftKings right now, see what he's going to be like. But what other running backs would you be considered, paying up for rather than Zeke and Le'Veon Bell? It's Raz. Give me who you think you'd pay for.
I'm still going to keep riding DeMarco Murray. He's been winning me money on a weekly basis, so I'm going to keep doing it. I think Zeke is somebody that the matchup isn't the greatest. Baltimore's pretty strong run defense, but his offensive line's so good, plus he's playing at home. I think Zeke will be lower owned than he should be, which intrigues me enough that I might want to use him in a couple spots. Otherwise, Jay Ajayi is still, going to come around at 7 to 8% owned or something. And I think that's really about it around those guys. Everybody's going to be on David Bell. Or Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson.
Yeah, absolutely. Like David Johnson's price is it fell down a little bit, so I think people are going to still ride that. And then on Zeke, people are just going to be scared of, the Ravens having the number one rush defense, and they're allowing like 3.3 yards per carry, and only 3 rushes over 20 yards all year. But it's Zeke, and if they get in the red zone, I think he's going to probably get the score. He's probably going to get like 23 carries, 85 yards, and then maybe a touchdown. So, and then if he explodes, and he'll repeat what he did like last week. I like DeMarco Murray a lot. I don't think I'm going to be on Ajayi that much this week. I like your Theo Riddick pick, especially more on Fanduel. DraftKings. He's a little cheaper there. I think that sums it up. I'm going to be staying away from the Cincinnati run game. Gio and Jeremy Hill scare me. And everyone else, I think that's. What are your thoughts on the Eagles run game, Ryan? Do you have any thoughts for your Birds? I don't know what's going on with them. Give me some insight. Yeah. Like Eagles, I was heard like in DFS, all the Eagles fans were right on pretty much not playing Sproles because they're like, dude, that's not going to happen, and we gotta,
Yeah. So for the past couple of weeks, we've been like discussing in like a chat whether or not Sproles is a viable play. The 1 week he's considered must play, and it's just kind of gotten to the point where if you're playing him on FanDuel, then that's a really high risk play. You're pretty much either banking on him returning a touchdown or catching a touchdown because he's going to get vultured every single time down at the red zone. There was a report that came out that said he's the man for the New York Giants game. Like, he's going to get the carries, and he's Doug Peterson's number one because he doesn't fumble. And then he came out and he got whatever it was. It was like some
2 rushes, carries. 19 yards.
I'm talking about the New York game. He came out with
New York game? Yeah, 13 for 57 and 9 catches, or 9 targets, 3 catches, 14 yards.
Yeah, so he came out and he was like he was the heaviest used back in that game. But then they still brought in Ryan Matthews in the goal line, and he got the touchdown vulture, and Ryan Matthews has scored in 3 straight games because he's going to get the goal line carries. I'm not okay with playing any Eagles running back in this game. I can't justify to myself looking at Ryan Matthews and thinking that he's going to be able to carve up the Seattle defense. I can't look at Darren Sproles on FanDuel and think that he's going to return a touchdown or catch a touchdown. On DraftKings, though, it's a different conversation because I think Darren Sproles' floor, because of his receptions, the Giants game where he had 57 yards and then 3 catches for 14 yards, that's like a low floor. He scored like 10.5. Last week on DraftKings, he scored like 15.5. So on DraftKings, he's a different conversation. You can plug him in with a safe floor, but on FanDuel, I can't justify that to myself.
Yeah, I'm with you. Raz, any final thoughts on the running back position?
Well, my thoughts with the Eagles on FanDuel and the GPP, I'll use Matt because of his touchdown ability. And then I agree with Sproles on DK. I'll use him somewhere in some GPPs. But, a couple other running backs that I'm looking at using in places, the way he's running early in the year, he's looking like somebody that should be in the mid-5s. And being at home, I kind of liked his spot a little bit. And then also I'll be using a little bit of Kenneth Dixon and some stuff. He look so much better than West did last week. So the game flow goes the way we think. Dallas should control that game quite a bit. He's also back out of the 0.9K on DK and backfield catches. So I will have some exposure to those guys.
Yeah, I don't hate either of those plays, and definitely on DraftKings where they're 3.9. What are they on Fanduel? Let me check that out. I don't hate those plays. I remember watching that Ravens game, and I had the over for the Terrence West. It was like 65.5 yards. He barely got it. But Dixon has looked so much better out there, but he's the work has to start to come to him more and more. And I think you might be either a week early or you might be on it this week, or it's just never going to happen. I don't know. But I like it, though. Let's move to the wide receiver position here. Definitely a position, as we mentioned, this is where I kind of want to pay up for. Highlighted by OBJ, Antonio Brown, AJ Green, and then you can pretty much play anyone from the Colts and Titans game. A lot of fun here at wide receivers. Ryan, give me who you're targeting at top end guys first, and then give me some mid tier guys that you're looking at.
All right, so looking at the top end guys is where I think the chalk for wide receiver is going to be, because it's just easy this week to look at it and try to pick apart a matchup and find somebody, a high end or a high priced wide receiver that you want to target in cash games. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is obviously going to be the highest owned wide receiver. He's coming into his own right now. He's scoring touchdowns. He's getting targets. He's having fun playing football again. Everybody if you just for the pure football aspect, whether you're a fan of him off the field and his antics, it's enjoyable to watch him play football. So that combined with the fact that it's a great matchup, people are just going to want to plug and play Odell Beckham Jr. And then I think Antonio Brown is going to be a heavy chalk play as well against Cleveland. I think he's strictly a cash game play though, because he performed substantially better in wins, aside from last week where he had 18 targets for 14 receptions and a score, which was a phenomenal game for him or for anybody. And when you want to see a receiver like him get back on track, that's a good thing to see. But I saw a stat that since Le'Veon Bell got back from his suspension, Antonio Brown has 45 receptions and Le'Veon Bell has 45 receptions. So it's kind of interesting how that offense is working right now with them both basically getting the same volume through the air since Le'Veon Bell got back. And then also I think T.Y. Hilton is a chalk play this week. I think that because people are going to want that luck play against Tennessee where Aaron Rodgers just tore him apart, and then they're going to want to pair his number one wide receiver with him, and just automatically that's T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton gets 1 million targets a game. He's a high floor play except for yards week against Kansas City, and then the week against Houston, two of the better defenses or cornerbacks that he's lined up against. So I think those are the top three chalk plays. And then once you look down further, I think I mentioned the Russell Wilson play earlier, so I think the Doug Baldwin play will also be a solid play, but I think his ownership is going to be up a bit higher than it should be because of that recency bias, watching him score 3 touchdowns on Monday night.
Raz, give me 3 guys that you're looking to look at in your wide receiver spot here.
My first one is Allen Robinson. Showing signs of life the last couple of weeks and get back to the way he was last year, whereas and then 400 yards passing. I like Allen Robinson quite a bit. Larry Fitz.
I like Allen Robinson too, man. I'm definitely on that play. And that the Jags are probably gonna be down. They're gonna have to come back through the air. Yeah, absolutely. Are you looking at the Packers wide receivers at all? Or are we just overlooking going Packers players right now? Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Looking at Packers wide receivers, it seems like Randall Cobb is going to be healthy enough, or going to be healthy and like on a full work practice week and full workload in the game. So I think that he definitely is a solid play. And then, I mean, yeah, Jordy Nelson's coming back to life. It seems his production's been steadily climbing up, going from 17 to 19 to 25 points, going from 9 to 13 to 18 targets in the last 3 weeks. As you can see with the trending of that offense, where they don't have a healthy running back. They just claimed Christian Michael off waivers, but I'm not expecting him to do anything this week, so I'm still expecting him to throw the ball 45, 50 times. Because even if they get up in the game, they're not going to be able to just run the ball and like just kill the clock and just like quicken the game basically till their victory. I think Jordy Nelson and then Devontae Adams seems like he's going to have a good matchup this week. He should be lining up against Rashad Breeland quite a bit. Rashad Breeland has been low-end fantasy or low-end cornerback and a high target for fantasy purposes. So I think Devontae Adams there's definitely merit to playing him this week. Let me check what he did last week. So last week he put up another 18.6 points and 9 targets, 6 receptions, 156 yards. So he's 16 and 14 targets. Seems like those days are over. He's back down to earth now, hovering in that 7 to 9 range. I still think that he's a high floor play, and if he scores, then he's going to probably, for his 7.5 price range, he's probably going to be one of the better plays in that range.
I hear you on that. I don't like how Devontae Adams is like 7.6 and Randall Cobb's like 6.5. Didn't we say this last week that Randall Cobb was going to win someone like a GPP, and then maybe I think we were a week early on that because now he's just going to get a little healthier. He played, I think it was actually 69% of snaps last week, and that's kind of what I like. I like Julian Edelman this week. He's 6.1K on FanDuel. It's way too cheap, honestly, for a guy without, the Pats don't have Rob Gronkowski. The 49ers are the 32nd ranked defense against the pass. He's seen, over pretty much for the last 5 games, he's seen 10 targets, 7, 10, 8, and 9. He's only found an end zone once out of that. The touchdown variance hasn't been there for him. They haven't been throwing to him in the red zone like they have in the past. But now that Rob Gronkowski's out once again, I feel like he's could get in the end zone, and that 6.1K and in that total, Pats having like the highest team total. I think he's cash game playable too. Definitely cash game. Not as much upside in GPP. I like Jamison Crowder as well at 6.3K on FanDuel. I went to him last week. Sort of paid out. I mean, he got the touchdown that bailed us out, but last 5 games he's gotten in double digits, and only 3 of his games he hasn't. And Kirk Cousins is starting to look to him. I like it a lot. Jordan Reed's become healthy more, so he might not get that score again, but I like Jamison Crowder as well. Something to take a look out for. Keep an eye on Jeremy Maclin because I love Tyreek Hill once again this week. If Maclin is out, they got the targets going to him over the middle. He's 5.4K on FanDuel, and it makes a lot of things work. There's merit for Cameron Meredith too from the Chicago Bears. Alshon Jeffrey out with the PEDs, for the rest of the year. Eddie Royal's healthy on the Bears now too, but I like Cam Meredith. We saw what he did earlier this year in 5.6K on FanDuel. That's all right. What is your guys' thoughts on Eli Rogers as well? I like that play from Pittsburgh.
For me, I'm thinking Eli Rogers, he's definitely seeing the targets. He's that slot receiver that Marcus Wheaton never developed into. Eli Rogers still has a lot to turn into. He still has a lot to improve on. He's seeing the 5 target range, so he's getting consistent work. So he's definitely more of a DraftKings play because of the consistent work, the 4 receptions, at least 4 receptions in his last 3, a touchdown in one of them, 100 yards in another one, and then the week against Miami had 4 for 35, which is a weak production for what you're looking for. But he definitely offers some salary relief, a pretty okay floor for his salary range. So if you're in dire straits at that price range, then I think he's probably, as you mentioned, Tyreek Hill, he's probably one of the top options in that range.
Raz, what are your thoughts on Tyreek Hill and Eli Rogers?
But I definitely prefer Tyreek Hill right now because I'm pretty sure it looks like Macklin's not going to play again. I like Rodgers, but I've watched a couple of the games this year that I've actually been heavy on him, and he has really solid halves. Last week was the first half looked pretty good, and all of a sudden just disappeared in the second half. So I don't know if he has the upside to put together a full game, which kind of worries me. Plus, he had we get a price increase on him as well. So as much as I like him overall, I think I'd much rather go with Tyreek Hill this week at basically the same price point.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyreek Hill is even cash game. I think he's cash game playable. Honestly, I might just go to him as soon as I get like confirmation that Macklin's out. As you said, he's pretty much out at this point, but there hasn't been any signs of any good news per se for him coming back. That's definitely something I'm potentially looking to in cash. That just frees up so much. Since if I want to pay up for OBJ and T.Y. Hilton and maybe Antonio Brown, or two of the three of those guys, like a cheaper wide receiver like Tyreek Hill really helps out, and it helps you get in to our tight ends. Perfect transition there, which is highlighted this week by Martellus Bennett at 5.2K, and I believe he's 3.7K on DraftKings. Rob Gronkowski's out, Martellus Bennett in, lowered price on it. Obviously wasn't going to be able to get adjusted, so that's where the chalk of the chalk is going this weekend. I love the play anyway because he's freeing up some salary, let you pay up for at least one running back and then potentially two wide receivers. Get him at a discount. High over under, high team total for Martellus Bennett, and he's going to see the work. Brady's starting to get him the ball again. Last 2 weeks, 12 targets so far, and you saw him go 7 for 7 last game. We remember what he did at Cleveland. He got 27 Fanduel points. Against Miami, he torched them. He has good games, and we went to him earlier this year. I think this is a great spot for him. Another guy you can't go wrong with, really, I don't think, is Jordan Reed or Delaney Walker. 6.9 for Jordan Reed on FanDuel and 6.4 for Delaney Walker. As for reasons we mentioned earlier, with both Washington and Tennessee's offense are in great spots, high totals here, high over-unders, and exposure to the pass game where there really isn't like a true number one wide receiver on either of those teams, and those are the guys. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the tight end position aside from the chalk Bennett?
Yeah, you pretty much mentioned it. Jordan Reed for me is my guy who I'm looking at aside from Martellus Bennett if you're looking to pay up, because for me, as Kirk Cousins' value increases, then Jordan Reed's value increases. And in this game, where we've said it a million times already on this podcast, Green Bay's defense just doesn't look good. Kirk Cousins becomes a playable quarterback. Then when Kirk Cousins is fantasy playable, then to me that just makes Jordan Reed such a better play, because Kirk Cousins has a really high floor. It seems like how many games we got on this out? We got 9 games on this game log, and only 2 of those weeks he was below 18 points. So he's a really safe play at quarterback. If that's what you're looking for, if you have a lot of risky plays throughout other places in your lineup, and riskier plays throughout other places in your lineup, and you're looking for some stability, just a core player to just give you a guaranteed 18 plus, then you're looking at Kirk Cousins. And then when I look at Kirk Cousins, I look at Jordan Reed. That's just how it works for me. Deshaun Jackson's shoulder, he was limited Thursday at practice, so not too confident in his production here. So when you're looking at the Redskins offense, there's a lot of value to be had a lot of places. Tight end, you're not going to get value, but you're going to get volume.
I'm with you on that. Raz, who are your tight end highlights here?
Jordan Reed was my number 1, I think, right now. I just liked what the tight ends are doing against Green Bay. I always loved Delaney Walker. I might actually fade Martellus Bennett just because he's going to be so highly owned, and just hope that it turns into a LeGarrette Blount game. A couple guys I like on FanDuel because they dropped under 5K are Kyle Rudolph and Dennis Pitta. we've seen both of them have some pretty high upside. So, getting a tight end like them for under 5K, I think opens up a little bit, and it helps you pay up at wide receiver. Otherwise, I want to look at the Indy tight ends. Obviously, it's a coin flip trying to figure out which one it'll be. I've seen a lot of people talk about Dwayne Allen this week and with him being healthy. I think one of the two of those guys will find the end zone. And then Ladarius Green, 4,500 on FanDuel, came back last week, only played 12 snaps, but on those 12 snaps, he ran a route on every single one and had 4 targets. So as he gets into more game shape, I think he, becomes a pretty solid tight end. You got to think that his snap count will probably increase a little bit as he gets better. So, if he keeps that same target rate, he gets to 20 snaps, he might have 6 targets. And that'll be enough to pay off for, 4,500 on FanDuel, and I assume he's probably 2,500 on DK, so he's min priced on both.
Yeah, I just saw that he practiced full today on Thursday, so that's a great sign for him getting even more snaps. It doesn't seem that Jesse James is like a big target for Big Ben, but he doesn't really go to him. And with what the logic you're saying out here, the more more he's out there, he could get up to like 8 targets if he plays like half the game or more, honestly, because we've seen what he's done in the past, and I think Pittsburgh really needs this tight end to get in this offense to significantly help them. So I really like that play. I'm definitely going to toss that in the GPP. And I feel like Cameron Brate is way too cheap on DraftKings. He's 3.8. Kyle Rudolph and Ebron are like ahead of him. The same goes for Zach Miller too. Guys on DraftKings I think are a little too cheap that I like. And they pretty much bring the same floor to the plate as Martellus Bennett. So there's like the perfect merit to fade him, especially even on FanDuel. Honestly, like Hitta just gets targets all the time. We've seen him get like 2 straight weeks with 10 targets, and then he only had 3 against Pittsburgh, and that was a weird game. But last week he was 6 for 6, 6 targets, 6 catches. He hasn't seen the end zone yet, but we know Joe Flacco and Dennis Pitta love story. That's one of the plays I'm definitely going to be looking towards. Let me see if there's anyone else. Oh yeah, I like Will Tye this week a little bit. That's my boy. He actually played against my rival high school. And I think there's merit for him to have an okay game. He's 4.5 on FanDuel. We saw him. He had 8 targets last outing against Cincinnati, and he saw 7 against Philly. He dropped like 3 of them in both games, and he hasn't found his way into the end zone yet. But I believe Larry Donnell is barely playing right now, and Will Tye are getting these targets. That's something definitely to potentially look at in a GPP. Ryan, do you have any final thoughts here on the tight end position?
No, I think we touched on everything I was going to say.
All right, cool. Let's wrap this up. Before I say anything, kickers.
Roster kicker in Mexico City. They're going to kick a 75-yarder.
Yeah, so that's on Sunday or Monday night rather. But
yeah.
I just play the cheapest kicker on FanDuel. They just every time cheapest kicker and the highest total. Don't ask me twice. Don't ask twice. All right, any defenses that you guys really, really love this week? Raz, start us off.
My number one defense right now is Kansas City being at home against the very turnover-prone Jameis Winston. And then, I can see going with the Giants against Cutler and the Bears, but as much as I hate Cutler, Cutler seems to step up in spots where you think that the Bears are just going to get destroyed, and he seems to just break hearts. So, as much as I do like the Giants defense, I'm a little leery. Then, obviously the Vikings or the Cardinals themselves, in that they play each other. So, either side of that game, I think, is in a solid spot.
I'm with you on that, too. I like the one I'm looking at that you didn't mention. I like the Cowboys defense this week. I'm really just not afraid of this, Joe Flacco ran offense that they're apparently supposed to be trying to run the ball more. And if Dallas, keeps them off the field all game, they're going to come in fresh, and then they're just going to attack Joe Flacco and maybe get a pick or two. Flacco is good for 1 or 2 every now and then. There's merit to play the Lions defense. Their home team, high favorites. Blake Bortles coming to town. You can always play against Blake Bortles, even though I like him at quarterback this week. It's worked every week, but he's very turnover prone. I don't really like any really cheap defenses. Honestly, I usually like to put a defense every now and then to really save some value. And there's really nothing I like down there. The Bears, maybe out of the Eli, sucks it up because everyone thinks that the Giants are going to have a great game, and Eli just wipes his ass on the floor, and then that could happen. I guess maybe the Jags defense, if Stafford just throws a couple picks, they run one back. Like what team is most likely to return a defensive player or special teams playing to a touchdown this week?
I would say Kansas City.
You think Kansas City? Raz, what about you?
Probably Kansas City, but then, there's always defense that we didn't talk about. Is Ryan's Eagles. They always have a defense that just seems to score touchdowns. I know they're in Seattle, but they're, the upside is there for how cheap they are. $4,300 on Fanduel and just $2,500 on DraftKings. And obviously, once they, when you have Darren Sproles returning punts, anything can happen.
Yep, I like that little double dip. I guess same goes for Tavon Austin too. If you want to play the ramp, low over under there, it's like 39 in that game. Tannehill's Tannehill could really suck it up, and then Tavon Austin just rips one back. That could happen too. I like those double dip plays. Leave us on let's end this here with a bold call. Give me a bold call that you're looking for on this Sunday. Ryan, give me a bold call here.
All right. My bold call is going to be, give me a second to look through these games and see what I could see happening. I'm going to say that Tyler Higbee scores a touchdown for Los Angeles.
Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, tight end. Drafted him relatively early in the draft. He's been working with Jared Goff the entire preseason. They look good in the preseason. They've been working together on second team reps. I think Jared Goff coming in, rookie quarterbacks love to target their safety blankets and running backs out of the backfield, wide receivers on short routes and tight ends. So I'm going to say Tyler Higbee gets a touchdown.
We saw 7 targets last week. I mean, that's interesting, right? That was our boy in college DFS, RIP.
Yeah,
college DFS. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. I'm going to give you a bold call here. I'm going to say the winning $1 million team has a San Francisco stack. How's that? Like I said, a little San Francisco stack with one Pats player. It's gonna be a little double dip on the other side. Maybe like a Kaepernick, a wide receiver, and then a wide receiver from the Pats or LeGarrette Blount. It's out there. It's very bold. So we'll keep an eye on that this week. Raz, how about you, man? What about a bold call?
I got 2 of them. I say James Starks runs for 100 yards and scores 20-plus DK points.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I didn't even talk about him, and, I mean, he's terrible, but, second week back from his knee surgery, something crazy could happen. And as much as I love the Steelers, the Browns are going to win that game.
Ooh, there it is. What's the spread on that game? Yeah, that'll pretty much is going with the script that the Steelers defense is that bad and Big Ben stinks on the road. And that'll honestly probably maybe suck for my lineup.
A little bit of line information on this one. We got it opened at -8.5 for Pittsburgh. It's currently at -8. 75% of the spread bets are going on Pittsburgh. 78% of the overall money is on Pittsburgh. 72% of the money is on the under. The under dropped from 49.5 to 46.
Ew.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Well, that finishes everything up here from Setting the Edge Week 11 DFS, Fanduel, and DraftKings breakdown from myself, from Raz, from Ryan. Thanks for listening, guys, and best of luck on this Sunday's slate. Salut.